Emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We also emphasize that you only keep one of your electronic devices open at any time to avoid feedback issues. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Alan Smithies, and I will chair today's meeting. Joining us on the panel today are Ron Hunt, Paul Kidd, Nadini Sankar, and Nadini Sankar Peralta. City staff are also present: Daniel Antonacci, Jenny Kotas, Kelly Reed, and Adam Wills. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Appeal Planning Tribunal, LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the committee's decision. The hearing procedure is as follows. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute limit. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee of the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. To ensure that a revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application are invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This marks the end of discussion on the item. The application is taken into committee for a decision. Are there any committee members here this afternoon who have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare? No, great. Thank you very much. We'll now proceed to our agenda. We'll start with item number 13, 168 Old Orchard Grove. I have one person here scheduled to depute on this item who is the agent, a Mr. Sean McGaffey. Mr. McGaffey, are you there?
Excuse me, Chair, 1 second.
Mr. McGaffey, are you there? Okay, we will We'll hold this one down. Proceed to item number 14, 53 Delhi Avenue. I have one person, an agent, registered to speak on this item. Mr. Laith El Barani, are you there? Laith El Barani, are you there?
Chair, we did have Laith on the line, and it appears that they are no longer present. Oh, wait, 1 second. Chair, we will now have Laith on the line.
Yes,
Mr. El Barani, are you there?
I am here.
Yes, okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to say hang on just a moment. Very clear what your application is asking for.
My name is Lartice. Hair does define you.
Laith, is it possible that you can close down one
Yes.
of the devices
Yes.
you are listening to so that we can hear you clearly?
Curly hair, like
1
what you
second.
could do to your hair, I pretty much did it.
So can you hear me better now?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you very much.
Feel about that,
Sir, it's very clear what you're
Yes.
asking for. You have two variances here for side yard setback, two side yard setback variances. Very clear what you're asking for. We have no one registered to speak on the item. There are no comments from city planning on this application. I'll just ask the committee, does it have any questions or comments or would like a presentation? Mr. Kidd? Yes, Mr. Kidd.
I do have a question. I'm just not clear on the application. Variance 1 proposes a side yard setback of 0.55 meters, but on the site plan, you're showing 0.741 side yard setback. And on the west side yard, you're asking for 1.18, whereas the site plan is showing side yard setback of 1.403. Can you just?
Yes. Yes, sure. Yeah, I think it depends how they calculated the 1.4. I took it, I think, parallel to the lot line. I suspect that they took it perpendicular to the house. I'm not sure how they got that, but that's the dimension that shows. But obviously, we're going to go what they asked for. It's just like the one, whatever the zoning examiner had to sort of put down, which is the 0.55, I think, and the 1.1 on the other side. So it's just the more severe, I think.
Yep. Okay.
Technically, the one on the side is basically we just took the side, the wall of the house, and we just went parallel to the house, and that's how it came about.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
And we have 6 letters of support from the neighbors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? Please note that we have no one registered to speak on this item, and if I could get a motion on this application, please.
Anything is possible with Hair Club.
Ms. Sankar?
Literally about maybe a month or so since I've
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I see that they do have a letter of support from one of the side neighbors. So that's great. I will motion to approve this application and subject it to forestry.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sankar. Have someone to second that motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries. Sir, your application has been unanimously approved, subject to urban forestry conditions.
I'm completely satisfied with it. I couldn't ask for anything better.
Thank you, sir.
No matter what
Thank you.
your age, you're at
Item number, we'll go back to item number
Hair Club has a solution for you.
13,
Hair Club offers
which
multiple
is
non-surgical
168 Old Orchard Grove. Is the agent there, Mr. Sean McGaffey?
although the speed
Yes, apologies. Sorry, I was previously muted and could not respond.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to ask, we have, I notice there are no staff conditions or comments on this application. It's very clear what you're asking for in the variances we have before us. I'm just going to ask the committee if it has any questions or comments.
get it back, and it can start by calling Hair Club.
Okay, thank you. I did wanted to point out, sir, I had a question myself when I was out to look at the site. Is your client aware that they have a shed that's located in the municipal road allowance?
Yes, they are, and that shed is the existing pool shed structure, and it's subject to a right-of-way encroachment agreement with
Oh, they
transportation
have an
staff.
encroachment agreement. And I was also going to ask, they also appear to have boulevard parking spaces. Are those legal as well?
Correct, sir. That's all subject to the existing
Okay,
encroachment
all
agreement.
right, thank you, perfect, thank you. I'll just ask, does the committee have any further questions? There being none, I note that there is no one registered to speak on this item, so if I could get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Kidd?
Yes, the variances appear to be of minor nature and a little change to the existing situation out there. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application.
Thank you. Can I have someone to second Mr. Kidd's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application has been unanimously approved without condition.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
For the rest of your day.
Item number 15, which is 695 Oriole Parkway. We have two people registered to speak. One is the agent. Is the agent there a Christian Chan?
Panel members, I'd just like to let you know that Christian Chan has signed in, but we do not have access to his mic. We would need him to log out and sign back in with access to his microphone.
Okay, I will put this, we'll move this application to a later, I'll put it on hold. Jump ahead to item number 16, 237 Courtly Boulevard. We have 4 people registered to speak. One is the agent, Mr. Bronskill. Are you there? Hello, Mr. Bronskill. Are you there?
I am, sir. Oh, there.
Yes.
Sorry, sir. I was just waiting to be unmuted. Apologies.
Great, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, could I get your full name and address before we start?
Yes, sir. The name is David Bronskill, Bronskill. We're the solicitors for the applicant. So I'm at Goodman's LLP, and that's 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, Toronto, Ontario. And I believe our email is on file with the committee, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, have you read the city planning report of the 22nd of May?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we've read not only the city planning report, but the letters of support and opposition that have been filed.
Okay, I'm just going to read out, city staff was recommending modifying variance number 3 that related to the floor space index to a maximum of 0.6 times the lot area, and that if approved, the property be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing and east side elevation drawing submitted to the Committee of Adjustment as attachments 1 and 2. Now, I wanted to ask, did you want to, were you going to propose changing variance number 3?
Mr. Chair, no, I will address that in my remarks. We believe that there's a sound basis for the FSI being proposed, and I will deal with that in the presentation materials
all right.
that I believe are on file.
Okay, certainly, sir. I'll start the clock now. Your presentation, you can make your presentation.
Thank you, sir. And I would note, just Mr. Chair, at the outset, the action proposed, should the committee choose to approve the application regarding development substantially in accordance with, is a condition that we would be prepared to accept.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to flag that for you. Thank you, sir. Does the committee have easy access to the presentation that we filed in advance in front of them? I was going to make reference to a number of the slides. We would normally put it
I believe we have it here.
and I'm just not sure. Okay, thanks, sir. So if I start with page 1 of the presentation, this is sir, can I ask your indulgence just to stop my time until our presentation is up?
Okay.
That's one of the letters, and I know this is this is new for all of us. So I'm just going to, with the committee staff assistants, if they were able to find the presentation that was filed by Mr. Dean.
Right.
thought about taking action and finally doing something about your hair loss and then stopped yourself because you were afraid of what other people might think?
Oh, this is the one you just distributed by email. Okay.
If you take on this one challenge in your life and succeed, you'll get momentum. And before you know it,
Just a moment, Mr. Bronskill.
your career,
No problem, sir. Thank you for the indulgence.
successes. And that's what this is really all about.
I started losing my hair around 24, 25. As I started transforming my body, getting into health and fitness, being on social media, being in front of people, I realized that just transforming my body wasn't enough, and I lacked confidence, and it was kind of the hair thing. Before Hair Club, I avoided the
Thank you, sir.
look down, look away. Look
Okay,
up.
Mr. Bronskill, you can start.
Now, since Hair Club,
Thank you very much, sir. So slide one that we're showing here is a slide that we've often shown to the committee before. It just lists the different statistics for the proposal. As the committee may know, there are 6 variances identified in respect of bylaw 569/2013 and 1 variance for 438/86. I will just deal with that variance very quickly now. You'll see there that it's a variance for 4 centimeters that's generated because height is measured from the average grade at the low side of the property. And I'm just going to submit to you that that one variance is clearly a technical variance at 4 centimeters. I'm then going to deal with the balance of the variances in a grouping. First, if I could ask the staff just to go to the second slide, just to confirm the location of the property, the south side of Courtleigh, just west of Mona Drive. What we've done on this slide also is to identify where there is support, including from the most immediate neighbors at 235 and 239 Courtleigh. The next slide shows the site plan, and I was just going to quickly walk through a groupings of the variances before getting to the FSI. The existing house is shown in green for committee members. Red on this site plan is an outline of a house that would be permitted by the zoning bylaws. And you can see that most of the proposed house, in fact, falls within that red line of different setbacks, lengths, and depths that are in the bylaw. Most of the house is therefore within the permitted envelope. The side yards slightly exceed. We're seeking a reduction of approximately a foot. It would still enable 1.24 meters from both property line, which is consistent with the neighbors who have 1.02 meters to the east and 1.21 meters to the west. Length and depth very quickly for the panel is measured to the back of the excavated terrace. But the back of the main wall in terms of length is only 17.73 meters, and in terms of depth is actually 16.99 meters. So again, I'm going to submit to you that it's basically a technical variance given that we have to measure to the back wall of the excavated terrace. But the 2-story home itself actually largely complies with the 17-meter depth permission that's in the zoning bylaw. If I could turn then to FSI, we acknowledge the staff report. I would simply say it is a short report. There's no actual analysis of the qualitative impacts of what's being proposed. It's an objection based only on the number, and frankly, it's a standard objection within this neighborhood. We reviewed the staff report for 239 Courtleigh to the west. It was the same objection, and the C of A approved 0.766 on that site. The next slide, slide 4, actually shows a range of FSIs approved both within the broader and immediate context. We have circled in red those that are above 0.6, and I would submit from a quantitative perspective, what is being proposed is well within the range of approvals, with many approvals, many approvals over 0.6. From a qualitative perspective, the site plan shows how we largely match the permitted envelope. The front setback, except for what is really a window projection, complies. The rear wall is actually shorter than both of the houses to the east and west, and it fits comfortably next to those 2 houses with a compatible relationship. So in response to city staff, while a numerical objection, I understand it, there are no adverse impacts here from the proposed FSI, and so there's no planning basis, frankly, to justify a further and what I would submit as an arbitrary reduction to the FSI. I did want to quickly, sir, in my last minute, just deal with some of the objections as I understand are related to a tree. on the site plan, my understanding is that the tree in question is a tree that we have measured by our arborist at the rear property line that has a measured width in accordance with the tree bylaw of 0.18. It's not, in fact, impacted by the variances themselves. There's no concern from urban forestry. So I'm not sure that it's actually a matter for this committee to deal with. Our client has reached out to this neighbor to the north, called him and left a message, went to the door with a package, left that package and his phone number with what he understood to be the neighbor's son. Our client is willing to have a dialogue about that tree, but frankly, sir, it's hard to do so without a response. So while we understand the concern,
Mr.
frankly, I
Broskill,
submit it's...
can you summarize, please?
Yes, sir. My last sentence, while we understand a concern related to that tree, it's simply not within the mandate or the jurisdiction of this committee of adjustment, but further dialogue could occur with the neighbor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll proceed to the next person we have on our agenda. That's a Mary Wainwright. Are you there, madam?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Ms. Wainwright, can I get your name and address, please?
Yeah, Mary Wainwright, and I'm at 112 HILLHURST Boulevard.
Okay, thank you, madam. You have the opportunity to make your views known on this proposal.
Okay, I didn't realize I'd be talking. So I am a neighbor to the south on HILLHURST, sort of behind this house to the left, to the west of it. I don't know what to say. I've lived in this neighborhood 50 years, and a house just went up behind me, immediately beside this house. They took down all of the trees, and now all I see is 50 feet of house. And to me, it looks like that's what's going to happen to this place, because they're taking down the trees in the backyard, putting in a pool across the back, concrete patio, and then a giant house. I don't understand completely what that lawyer was talking about with the variances. I don't know. To me, it looked like the floor space was being greatly increased, 0.35 to 0.67. I don't understand why someone needs a house that big. It's way too big for the properties in the neighborhood, and I think it's ruining the integrity of the neighborhood. The trees seem to be protected in the front, and then these developers come in, they're taking down the trees in the back, they're putting up giant houses, and all we can see in the neighborhood when we sit in our backyard, which we are doing all the time now with COVID, is a brick house. So I just think this house is way too big. Especially the number 1 through 3 variances. I think it's obscene. It's just a massive, massive house. And I realize that there are many houses in my neighborhood that are going down, and this is happening too. In my opinion, I don't think that should have happened with all of those houses. It's destroying the neighborhood. It's no longer a beautiful neighborhood with these 50-year-old trees, because the trees are coming up, the driveways are disappearing, and we are just seeing brick house beside massive brick house. That's all I really want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you, Ms. Wainwright. Next person on the list is Peter Smith. Are you there, sir?
I am.
And Mr. Smith, you have the opportunity to make your views known on this project.
Yeah, so look, I'll just, my specific areas, as a neighbor, I do agree with largely what Mary had said. The lot right next door, similar old house knocked down. You should see the size of this thing. The backyard, which had 20, 30, 40-year-old trees on, everything was taken out. The whole backyard is nothing but concrete and stone. There is no green space from what we can see. The proposal based here, and again, I know that they have on the back of the property that there will be some green that they're proposing. In my opinion, it's not well defined, and my worry, and I think the neighbors' worry, is that the developer will build something, and then it will be their discretion of the last minute to put in whatever they believe is an appropriate green space. What they're taking down is, as Mary said, The backyard of this property is all trees. Some may not be maintained, you know, over the life of the backyard. But this property, as you see in the, you know, in the schematic, and is basically very, very similar to the property to the west of it. It will be all stone. It will be all brick. What we as neighbors are asking for, and if you see these neighborhoods, is to be sympathetic to what is in the neighborhood right now, which is a very big green space where everybody's trying to adhere to what the city has asked for in terms of forestry, in terms of maintaining trees. We're asking for something very similar. My proposal was on one particular tree that's in the back, that's right on our property line. I submitted a whole group of pictures. There's a yew tree. It doesn't fall within the category that the lawyer had stated around the base level of the tree, in terms of urban planning, in terms of, you know, the actual numbers that are required. These yew trees are like bushes. This tree is 30 foot high. It has to be in there 30 or 40 years old. It's a beautiful tree in the sense that it provides privacy, not just between myself and south of that property, but all the adjoining neighbors. What I'm suggesting is that this should be, there was never an arborist report. They've unilaterally taken one of the trunks of the tree and said, this is the guideline. Somebody needs to take a look at this.
Okay, sir, you're aware that City Forestry has reviewed this application and they have no comment on it?
Well, you know, that's a shame then, because you know what, if you look at these pictures of this tree, it is not, and again, it's a tree, but it's a bush, right? And by the very definition of what a yew tree is, it doesn't grow as one stump. And it feels sort of arbitrary that if you look at the size of this tree and you look at the base of it, and you combine all of the various sort of branches that come out of the ground, basically, that, you know what, if you do the combined total of all that, it would be something that would exceed what the forestry guidelines are.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? Ms. Sankar?
Just a quick comment, because I've heard it from Ms. Wainwright and Mr. Smith, but just to say that, you know, even if we made it subject to forestry, they could still go ahead and get an approval. So it may be your best interest to, you know, get down there and touch base with forestry yourself, if you see fit that an error has been made. Okay, so that's just a comment I needed to make.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Our next speaker is Ms. Kathleen New. Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Ms. New.
Hi, I am...
Well, madam, before you start, can I get your full name and address, please?
Sure, my name is Kathleen New. I'm at 106 HILLHURST, and my property is in the corner of the house the new house that is going to be knocked down. And I do support Peter and Mary. I've been in my house for 35 years. I raised 5 children in a 4-bedroom home, bunk beds, and I find the property is very small for the size of the house that is going up. And I agree, it is a shame that these developers are coming in, they're trying to build this huge house on a small piece of property. And my concern is we are supposed to have downspouts that go out with all the rain that comes down. Where is all this water going to go? If all these backyards are nothing but concrete, where is it going to go? Where's the water going to go? And this has been a big problem with these huge homes that are being built in our neighborhood. We happen to be on a street in the neighborhood where their property is not that big, and the size of the house that they're putting on this property is way too big. And second of all, I agree with Mary. The people that bought the house completely next door west of the brand new one that we're looking at now, they told us that they were not going to knock down the trees in the backyard. They did. So now there's a proposal that they're going to do some type of greenery in the backyard of of this new proposed house, and it's the same developer, and I agree with Peter. They'll say, yes, we're going to maybe put a little bit of greenery in, and then what happens is they don't. And I'm, you know, I don't think that they need to take down the tree. I think it's unfair to the people that are south of this property. Mary has no privacy in her backyard anymore. Peter will not have any privacy, and we won't have any privacy. And I understand people buy properties and they're able to buy and do what they want in their own backyard. But I really don't think that any consideration there is put into asking really what other neighbors think. It used to be, people used to say, what do you think? I would like to do this, and there was discussion. Nowadays, it's all about what I can get away with. There's no discussion. It's all about what I can do, not what's the right thing to do. And I'm really getting disgusted at these developers that come in and are taking over our neighborhood. This is a nice neighborhood with a lot of green space, and it's getting taken away because, you know, I don't know if any of you people on the committee live in our neighborhood, but our neighborhood is unique, and it's getting, you know, when we have to ask you to decide whether this should be approved or not, I don't seen this before. But, you know, this is our neighborhood, and I think it's kind of a nice idea if some of you on the committee lived in our neighborhood, and you could see that these houses don't belong in our neighborhood. They're way too big. And we need the green space. We need those trees. Anyway, that's basically what I want to say, because I'm going to be here and going out in a box. So I don't want these big houses coming in and taking over our green space. It's important.
Okay,
so there
thank
you
you,
go.
ma'am. Thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you. Mr. Bronskill, that's the end of our list of deputants. You have the opportunity to address the concerns raised by the previous speakers.
Thank you, sir. I don't want to repeat too much of what I said previously. I would note, just from a jurisdictional issue, the issues related to the trees, they're not trees that are affected by the variances. And we have had an arborist on site prepare an arborist report to get the measurements in terms of whether these trees are regulated or not. So in our view, based on that arborist, they're not regulated. That being said, sir, I did want to say something that maybe will give some comfort to the people to the rear. Our client, Mr. Jarofsky, his name's on the plans, is not someone coming in to redevelop and flip. It's not, he did not do the house that is next door, contrary to what was said to you. He is going to live here. He has reached out and is prepared to have a conversation about this issue in the landscaping. And I would encourage that conversation to occur. I think that's the right way to resolve this, to talk about these issues in the trees. He wants privacy. He wants good relations with his new neighbors. And so I hope that dialogue occurs. The final two things, sir, I would just say is there's no rear yard variance setback being required for this. In fact, it's a fairly significant rear yard setback. And as I noted to you at the start, the rear wall is actually further away than the house to the west that appears to have drawn some of the ire. Secondly, there's no rear yard landscaping variance being sought. So in terms of green space, what the bylaw requires is being provided. But that being said, sir, I reiterate from our client, Mr. Jarofsky, he's open to the discussion about landscaping, and I do hope that that discussion occurs. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll take the matter into committee. Can I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Okay, Mr. Chair, hearing all of the neighbors that are in contest with this application and seeing what was actually presented before me, I do believe that, you know, there was some evidence showing that that is the character of the neighborhood. there was ample evidence showing a number of homes with these types of developments. It's what I can say then is the discussion they have had here today, it's recorded. So if there is going to be any type of greenery replacing this tree that's going to be taken down, I hope that it's heard through the committee and that this is taped and that the owner would do the right thing and speak to the neighbors. That being said, my motion will be to approve the application, but I'm also going to make it subject, because I don't think the staff report is arbitrary or arbitrarily made as per the comments of the applicant. I'm going to make it subject to the staff report. And I'm looking for exactly the wording here that they've used. So the staff report had said about the FSI being reduced to 6.6. And I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding this here.
It's up on the screen, Ms. Sanker. You may be able to see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so I will make it subject to the staff report in that the property be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing, and that variance number 3 with respect to the FSI, that it be reduced 2.6 times. I'm still going to make it subject to forestry, although it may be cleared, and I hope that that agreement gets taken up on a private level with the neighbors. And that's my motion.
Okay, let me just summarize, Ms. Sankar. So you're saying that you want to go with the staff recommendations in their report of March 22nd, including reducing the floor space index to 0.6 times the lot area, and you want to make the application subject to urban forestry approval. That's correct? Okay, thank you. Can I have someone to second that motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously, sir. Your application has been approved, subject to city planning and urban forestry conditions. Okay, we're now back to item number 15. I'm going to see that's 695 Oriole Parkway. Is Mr. Christian Chan there?
Hello, Mr. Chair. This is Christian Chan, agent for the applicant.
Okay, just a moment, sir. Hang on. Mr. Chan?
Hello.
Yes, you're there?
Okay, I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Thank you. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Christian Chan, C-H-A-N. I'm the agent for the applicants of C2 Planning, Suite 138. Address is 157 Adelaide Street West, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, sir, I just wanted to ask if you've had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 22nd of May.
Yes, sir, I have had, and in fact, to add to that, we've had extensive discussions with city staff. We were working with city staff from the...
Okay, now hang on a second. The city staff is recommending refusing variance number 11 relating to 3 stories. And then if we should approve it, that it's built according to the elevations drawings as described in their report, as well as introducing a 1.5 meter high opaque screen along the south side of the deck. Now, are you proposing to modify variance number 11 or delete it?
No, we are not. We're going to maintain the proposed 3 stories. However,
Okay,
just to
sir,
inform the committee...
sir, before you start your presentation, which I think you should give to us, we have one other person who is registered to speak. So I suggest you give us a presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal, and specifically in light of the city planning comments.
Yes, and just before I go into my presentation, I am proposing some reductions to the height variance. and also to inform the committee of a resubmitted site plan pursuant to our discussions with the adjacent northerly neighbor to the respect of the shared right-of-way.
Oh, okay, hang on a second. So are you proposing to make modifications to your application?
That's correct.
Can you tell us what those modifications are up front?
So the modifications are, one, to reduce the height variance number 10.
Okay, hang on just a second. Oh, sir, which variance number is that?
It's variance number 10.
Okay, so you're proposing to change the building height from 10.66 meters to which?
10.06 meters.
From 10.66 to 10.06.
Yes, and also part and parcel with that for the variance number 13, which will be revised from 11.41 meters to 10.81 meters.
Okay, so variance number 13, proposed building height is 11.41, and you want it to read how much?
10.81 meters.
10.81 meters, okay. That's it? Those are the changes?
Yes, and just to note that the front yard landscaping was also amended on a revised site plan submitted and received by the C of A on July 6th, but there were no new variances arising from those alterations.
Hang on, so you're saying you need more variances?
There are no other variances that are altered
Okay, thank
asked
you.
for.
All right, thank you. So if you could make us a presentation on what you see are the merits of your proposal?
Yes, sir. Just another point of housekeeping. There was a transportation report that was submitted by Transportation Services, and I believe it references a variance that no longer exists.
I don't have a Transportation Services report here.
Okay, it's a Transportation Services report of May 5th, 2020.
I don't have it here with our material.
Okay. So just to explain it, it reviewed a transportation-related variance that is no longer being sought.
Sir, can you start from the beginning? Give us a presentation on what you're jumping around from topic to the next. Can you know what the planning report says?
Yes.
Give us a report on what you see are the merits of your proposal. Let's look at the whole application.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So I've submitted a planning report to the Committee of Adjustment on July 2nd, 2020, and I'm asking if the committee members have had a chance to review my submission, my planning rationale. And just to summarize that document, the immediate context is characterized by 1-, 2-, and 3-story homes, with the newer homes being proposed and approved are 3 stories. The proposed building is for a building of 3 stories with a partial 3rd story. The second and third stories will be stepped back and have an overall length of just over half the permitted and the requested building length. The design is configured with sensitivity to the northerly buildings, for example, the cutout for the 3rd floor deck and the agreed to transparent rail guards on the northerly side. So if I can point you out to the site plan and the elevations, and especially the roof plan, which will depict those interventions. So there are 2 classes of variances, namely 1, the built form variances, and 2, the platform variances that are being sought. So for the built form, we're seeking front setback, building length, height, stories, and FSI. The front yard setback is for a small 1-foot portion of the integral garage at the northwest side. So if I can point you, the committee members, to the site plan, you can see the hashed mark of the required front yard setback, and you can see the infringement of the built form into that front yard setback by the northwesterly 1-foot portion of the integral garage. And as you can notice, that the front yard lot line is an angled lot line. So quantitatively, in speaking to the building length is similar to the approved and existing building lengths in the immediate context. Qualitatively, the length is stepped back both at the front and rear of the home at the upper levels, with the 2nd floor being a length of 16 meters and the 3rd floor being a length of 13 meters, reducing the overall impact of height and building length on the adjacent buildings. The height has been reduced to address the neighbors' concerns to a 10.06 meters overall height. Quantitatively, the height is well within the range of approvals in the immediate context, both under bylaw 569/2013 and 43886. The number of stories proposed is for a partial third story that is less than the length of the third floor of the adjacent northerly building, and the massing thereof is broken up in order to permit sunlight and limiting of any impacts of shadows on homes to the north. The number of stories is in line with permissions in the immediate context, namely multiple partial three-story homes nearby and on this section of Oriole Parkway. Also, namely, the C of A on June 24th approved a development of 3 stories and a 10.85 meters height from the same performance standards in the bylaw at 678 Oriole Parkway. So other examples in the immediate context for 3 stories are 696 Oriole Parkway, 698, 700, 702, 704, 683, 682, 675, 673, 659, and 621 Oriole Parkway. Now moving on to this, the floor space index. The floor space index is requested and is appropriate as the FSI proposes reflective of a modern house in the immediate context, which is pursuant to OPA 320 to include homes on both sides of this block of Oriole Parkway. There are no objections from city planning for the floor space index requested. The FSI for the proposal, should it be proposed on the opposite side of the street, would comply with the bylaw, and I have made the calculations on the lot area in relation to the floor area proposed, and it would come out at about 0.59 or 0.06 times FSI. All these are a result of the lot area and the depth of the subject site being 40 to 45% less than the other lots that occur on the west side of Oriole Parkway. There's also a sharp bluff to the rear of the property that effectively cuts the rear yard in half, of about 5 to 6 meters in height difference, necessitating the increased amenity options and spaces on the site, which is proposed in the form of upper story platforms, to which the city does not oppose, and neither do the neighbors. Condition 1 and 2 of city planning's recommended conditions my clients agree to pursuant to the changes with the revised site plan submitted in the altered variances, and respectfully request the committee to set aside city planning's recommendation number 3, which is the height of stories, and for the reasons above, in my opinion, the proposal satisfies the 4 test, and recommend the committee to approve the application pursuant to the revised site plans. And just to add to that, we have received letters of support from various residents in the nearby and adjacent homes.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, what do you think is driving the planning department's recommendation to knock this down to 2 stories when I've been out to this street. I'm certainly aware there are a number of 3-story buildings on this street. So I was a little surprised by planning's recommendation. So what do you feel is driving that recommendation?
I understand those observations as well, and in response to city planning's comments and having visited the site extensively and discussed it with them, generally the concerns for a 3-story building where 2 are permitted is that where in a situation where there's an integral garage, there's a concern that the first story would start at a substantially higher grade than as would be with a building that does not have an integral garage. Because as you may know, in many areas in North York where an integral garage is proposed, the main first story starts at a point at least 1.2 meters above grade, whereas in this particular application, the first story starts at grade, and the integral garage is in fact built into the floor plan of the main floor. And so the overall height impact of floor number 1, number 2, and number 3 is reduced, and that would normally be provided for an integral garage design where the main floor starts at a point 4 feet above grade. In this case, it does not. And in this particular immediate context, there is a change of grade of the streetscape in that from south to north, the street descends, and also from west to east. So in fact, this grouping of homes in this section of Oriole Parkway is at a lower elevation than most of the other homes on Oriole Parkway, and therefore, in my opinion, the overall impact of the additional stories is very minor. And in fact, three-story homes are provided on both sides. And this is the new this is the existing context of the immediate in the immediate block.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Hunt?
Just a clarification, the speaker had indicated that, I think you just said the building height would be reduced to 10.06 meters, but prior to that, you said it was reduced to 10.81. And I'd just like you to clarify what the height is proposed to be.
Yes, sir, and thank you for the question. In order for me to clarify, there are two height variances sought in terms of meters. Variance number 10 is the height variance sought in respect to bylaw number 569/2013,
right,
for 10.06 meters, and the accompanying variance number 13 is revised to 10.81 meters for bylaw 4386 because the determination of average and established grade are different in either bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? We have none. Our next scheduled deputant is a Mr. Garth Lowe. Is Mr. Lowe there?
Yes, good afternoon.
Mr. Lowe, could I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, it's Garth, G-A-R-T-H, Lowe, L-O-W. I'm a lawyer. My office address, Suite 270 Bond Street, Toronto.
Okay, thank you,
And
sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I represent the owner at 697 Oriole Parkway, adjacent to the subject property. We've actually had discussions with Mr. Chan and his client, and I understand that a revised plan has been submitted or is being submitted, and that we've reached an agreement that would provide for lowered heights. So I think we can live with the revised plan. I don't know whether Mr. Chan is in a position to provide those particulars. I don't see it in the documentation today, but we just worked it out this morning.
Okay, sir, I'm trying to. So are you opposed to Mr. Chan's application?
We're no longer opposed.
Okay, all right. So you're in favor of it then.
We're in favor as it's revised.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Being none, can I get a motion on this revised application, please? Please note that I'll just go through the revisions and make sure everybody's clear on what's happening here. Variance number 10 is being changed so that the proposed building height is being reduced from 10.66 meters to 10.06 meters. And variance number 13 is being changed so that the proposed building height is being reduced from 11.41 meters to 10.81 meters. So those are the revisions. Can I get a motion on this revised application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would base my recommendation for approval on the fact that a number of the neighbors have made similar changes, and also that the most immediately affected neighbor has stated that they are in agreement with the proposed amendments to the variances.
Oh, are you proposing, Mr. Hunt, that the application be approved subject to
Yes.
the city plan, the staff recommendation?
Yeah. Yes, I thought I had
now
started, but yes, I'm voting for approval based on the changes that have been established between the planning department and the applicant.
And that would be also, I'm taking your motion would be subject to approval, city planning approval of the, let me just draw up the report.
The tummy tuck panel, and that's a piece of high-grade lingerie type mesh that's really going to pull you in. And by the way, pulling it on is a breeze.
So what you're recommending, sir, is that the city planning conditions, the first two conditions identified in the report of May 22nd, that is, the first condition, it be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawings filed, submitted with the committee, and that the applicant provide permanent opaque screening and fencing along the south edge of the proposed front platform.
Correct. I'm sorry, I don't have the that report in front of me, but
but you're
it's
not
certainly part of.
Yes. Those first two conditions, I know, but you do not want to adopt the recommendation from city planning that it be reduced from 3 stories to 2. I only have 2.
I'm sorry, if that is part of the recommendation from planning, then that would be part of my motion.
So
to reduce it.
So you're proposing that it be reduced from 3 stories down to 2. Okay. And that.
Yes.
Okay. In addition to the other 2 about building.
And the maximum building height.
Okay. All right. So.
Yeah.
Mr. Hunt's moving approval of the application subject to the staff report, the recommended conditions in the staff report of May 22nd, which includes reducing the proposal down to 2 stories.
Mr. Chair, may I indulge quickly?
No, you can't. We're in motion now. Can I get a vote on that motion, please, on Mr. Hunt's motion? Someone to second. That motion loses. Can I get another motion, please? Mr. Hunt? Oh, Mr. Kidd, I'm sorry.
I have to admit that I am persuaded by the arguments put forward by the applicant. And the fact that they've negotiated with the neighbors to come to a reasonable agreement. And the fact that on the site visit, it does appear that this proposal would fit in with the existing neighborhood. I'd like to put forward a proposal to accept this application as revised. Variance number 10 to read the proposed building height changed from 10.66 meters to 10.06. Variance number 13 to be revised, proposed building height from 11.41 meters to 10.81 meters. And subject to the following conditions as set out in the staff report, the property be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing and the south side elevation drawing submitted to Committee of Adjustment, attachments 1 and 2. And the applicant is to provide permanent opaque screening or fencing along the south edge of the proposed front platform at the 3rd story and rear platform at the 2nd story with a minimum height of 1.5 meters from the floor.
Yes. And you're not proposing to refuse variance number 11.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Could I have someone to second Mr. Kidd's motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Hunt dissenting. Sir, your revised application has been approved, subject to the revised city planning conditions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members.
We're now on item number 17, 193 HILLHURST.
Hello?
Now, let me just see here. We have 3 speakers registered. Is the agent there, Mr. Babak Haji Gassemi?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is Baba speaking. Can you hear
Sir,
me?
I wanted to ask, have you had, before you start, can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Babak Haji Gassemi. I'm the principal of Arc Lab Studio and an agent for 193 HILLHURST application. Our company address is 142 Rondell Avenue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 22nd of May?
Yes, I did, and we had a chance to work with the planning staff, and we made some improvements to our.
Now, you realize that they're indicating that you've agreed to make a number of revisions to the application?
Yes.
So could you tell us what those revisions are?
Yes, I'm gonna go through the revisions as indicated
let's
on
go
our
through
public
them line
notice.
by line.
Okay. Variance 1 is now improved to 1.5 meters.
Just a moment. Hang on just a second. Okay, variance number 1
is now 1.5 meters from the east side lot line.
So it increases from 1.2 meters to 1.5.
Yes.
Okay, that's number 1.
Variance number 2, the proposed chimney now encroaches 1.96 meters into the required east building setback.
Okay, so it changes from 2.09 meters to 1.96 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Variance number 3 is now changed to 2.12 meters.
For which?
Improved from variance number 3 improved.
Okay, hang on just a
from
moment.
1.83.
Just a moment. The minimum required east side yard setback is 3 meters. Is that changing?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
The east yard setback is coming up next. But this variance is for proposed dormer east side yard setback.
Okay. The proposed dormer east. The proposed dormer east side yard setback is 1.83 meters. Are you proposing to change that?
Yes, we improved that to 2.12 meters.
Okay, 1.83 meters to 2.2 meters.
2.12.
2.12. Okay.
Yes.
So the next one?
Variance number 4. The proposed eaves now encroaches 1.8 meters into the required east yard setback. It changed from 2.09
okay,
to 1.8.
2.09 meters to 1.8.
Yes.
Okay. Variance number 5.
Variance number 5. The proposed eaves now encroaches 1.19 meters into the required west side yard setback.
So is that staying the same?
It changed from 0.9.
1 point.
It changed from 0.9 to 1.19.
It's, hang on. Number 5, the proposed eaves encroach 1.19 meters into the required west side yard setback. Is that changing?
Yes, it changed from 0.09 to 1.19.
It's 1.19 now. You're not proposing to change it. Okay, all right. If it's not being changed, just say it stays the same.
So, my bad, Mr. Chair. It's changed to 9. For that.
Which one is changing, sir? On 5, is it staying at 1.19 or is it changing?
It's changing to 0.09. Sorry, 0.9.
Which? What's? So going from 1.19 to 0.9.
That's correct.
Variance number 6. Is that changing?
Not changing? No.
No, okay. Variance
The
number 7.
next change is variance number is not changing.
Number 8, is that changing?
And number 8 is now reduced to 36%.
Number 8 is not changing, correct? Oh, it's going.
Number 8 is going from 37 to 36%.
Okay, from 37 to 36. Okay. Number 9, is that changing?
No.
Number 10?
No, the next one that is changed is variance number 12.
11 and 12 are not
West
changing.
Side.
12 is
No.
changing.
12 changed. The proposed west side yard setback is now improved to 1.2 meters.
Oh, sir, can you speak into your phone? I'm having trouble hearing you. So number 12, it reads right now, it's 0.9 meters. What are you proposing to take it to?
We are proposing to 1.2 meters. Can you hear me
1.2,
well, Mr.
okay,
Chair?
from 0.9 meters to 1.2 meters.
That's correct.
What about 13? Does it stay the same?
13 changed to 1.8 meters.
It's from 1.2 meters to 1.8 meters.
Mr. Chair, sorry, I made a mistake. It changed to 1.5 meters. I apologize.
From 1 point, so 13 is going from 1.2 meters to 1.5 meters.
That's correct.
What about 14? Does that change?
No, that's all the changes.
And 15, does that stay the same?
It will stay the same, yeah.
Okay, thank you. You've made those changes. Let me just go through this here.
And then they've put an extra piece of fabric and they've created that beautiful, beautiful slit. And I'm just going to show you on the inside. Here's an example of the finishing of Morales.
Now, you're also aware that city planning report indicated if we choose to approve the application, staff is recommending that permeable materials be used to surface the proposed driveway and that the property be developed substantially in accordance with the revised site drawings submitted to the committee.
We have absolutely no problem with that.
Okay, so I would ask, sir, that you give us a very brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal. We have 2 other people waiting to make deputations.
Okay. If you can pull up our front elevation, so I can begin my presentation, please.
You are going to be waiting for a little bit on the phones if you are calling in, so please check out tsc.ca and have a look at our website and see everything that Sandy has brought us. And again, our app, you can also see everything there as well. And these are just pull-on? Yeah, pull-on, and you have the
Thank you.
pocket too. And there's a beautiful
So
waistline, so you have a nice
I would like to go through the variances. Variance number 5, variance number 1 to variance number 5, and variance number 12 and 13 collectively deals with our side yard setbacks, and setbacks dealing with the elements of the side walls that projects into the required setback, such as roof eaves, dormers, and chimney. I would like to mention that our proposed west side wall is located right where the wall for the existing house is located, and is also keeping with the neighbor's setback to the west, which is 1.2 meters. Therefore, we're not making any changes to what exists on the site today. On the east side, currently there is a garage extension that has a setback of 0.96 meters from the property line. Our proposal has a setback of 1.5 meters from the property line, and this setback does not apply to the full length of the building, and the middle portion of the east wall has a setback of 1.96 meters from the property line. Now, if you can pull up our tree protection plan that was submitted before, I would like to explain variances 6 and 7.
So gentle cycle, and that mesh, I'll show it to you maybe.
You know what's great is because remember when the cold shoulder was all the rage,
Yes.
right? And it's still in fashion now, but now you want to maybe
This is the arborist report. There's another plan that was submitted. It's a separate file.
You have that first ruffle, that is a circular ruffle, not easy to do, not easy to cut out on the part of the pattern cutters, the fabric cutters, and that's inserted, and then there's a...
Mr. Chair, can we stop the time while we're pulling up that document?
So it's not getting into the soup. You know, so yeah, it's really a lovely summer top that you'll enjoy wearing with white pants.
Mr. Chair, we do have the document in front of us on our file, so we're looking at it right now.
I'm sorry, Ms. Sankar, can
Okay.
you repeat that?
I'm just saying that we do have the document anyway in front of us, so
Yes,
we're
sir, yeah,
looking-
it's not necessary to go through them line by line. We've already spent a considerable amount of time going through your revision, so if you could please kind of summarize.
All right. Okay, so number 6 and 7 deals with our landscape requirements in our front yard. There is a beautiful large city-owned tree right in front of our garage, and it was a goal to preserve this tree. Due to a large tree protection area that this tree required, we came up with an idea of changing the orientation of our driveway and have it accessed from the flanking street, which is Caldo Road. The intent of this bylaw is to promote a well-planned, soft and hardscape on the front yard of the dwellings. And if you look at our site plan, you see that there is about 5 to 6 meters space between property line to the curb to both the north and east side of the property, which we're going to use it for soft landscaping. And with this orientation, there is within the 100 meters of our proposal. In terms of variance number 9 and 15, which deals with our overall height, if we can if we can pull up our front elevation. Can we flip
Sir,
to
you
our
have
front
30
elevation,
seconds
please?
to summarize.
Okay. Yes. So I see we could potentially project a roof 1.6 feet into our side yards and maintain the slope requirements to fall under the height requirement under the slope roof. However, that would make our building mass much bigger, and it would make our roof project much more into our side yard setback.
Okay, sir, thank
That's
you very
why.
much. Your 5 minutes is up. Thank you. We have
Okay.
two other people registered to speak. A Ms. Karen Springer, are you there? Ms. Springer, are
Hi.
you there?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Madam, can I please get your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Karen Springer, and my address is 185 HILLHURST Boulevard.
Okay, thank you, madam. You can give us, if you could please give us your comments on the application.
Okay, so I live at 185 HILLHURST, which is next door to this dwelling, but it is across Caldo. So we're on the corner, and I noticed that I wasn't sure about the report that they had on the trees, but there is an absolutely beautiful tree there that my understanding would be if they did push out towards the curb, that tree would not be there any longer. So I was having trouble understanding from what they presented that maybe they were keeping it. But the corner that it's on is a very, very busy corner where most of the cars do not stop at the stop signs, and people in this neighborhood are cutting across that property in order to avoid the danger in that intersection. So I felt that if they push out towards the east, people will not be able to walk on the end of their curb or the grass at all because it will be so close to the house. And I just think for the way that area is set up, it's going to become some type of danger to what goes on there. And I noticed that there's a very, very large house being built on a relatively small lot. So I do understand that it's a builder and that they want to build that. And I don't know if they're taking into consideration the type of neighborhood that it is people with families, and that taking away from that, all the trees and the green space and everything that is there isn't good for the neighborhood, just to build a very huge home. As well, I noticed that the height of it, and we're across the street, would be blocking our sun. But I did notice that it was the first time that I heard that they did have to give back some of the things that they were trying to get. And the other thing I did notice is that it says it's a public hearing notice of minor variance, and I thought that they asked for 15 items that were not minor variances. I thought a lot of them were actually major. Some things that they asked for were 50% increases. The first thing that they asked for, that side yard setback, was a 60% increase that they asked for. And my concern is that because it's a builder and not a family who's taking care of the house, there have been some incidents since they bought the property where they didn't take care of it. And I'm afraid that when they're building there, they're going to be building and they won't take care of the property. Or, like, for example, they didn't cut their lawn for 4 months. There was a dead animal on the property that was there until it, we had to call and get it removed. There was an injured coyote on the property. People were dumping garbage on their property. And my concern is that nobody came around and checked on the property and saw what was going on. And if they're building a massive house on this property, I don't think they're going to care about the neighbors, the noise, etc. And although there are bylaws, etc., that they have to adapt to, my concern is that they're going to be building something very big. It's going to be very noisy, and it's just going to take away from what is there. So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker, Ms. Sankar?
Just a quick question, Madam, can you tell me if you feel this fits the size, the scope? You've talked about it being oversized and the magnitude of it. Can you tell me if this fits within the character of the neighborhood, because you are living directly there?
So I have a house that is basically beside it, that is on a property that is almost double their property, and that my house is the same size that they're planning to build. The other thing, though, is when they just showed the picture of the home, the picture looks very nice. Like, on a positive note, I was worried that they were going to build something that didn't go at all with the neighborhood. The picture that they've shown is a nice house that would fit in the neighborhood, so I'm positive about that.
Thank you, madam. Our next speaker, any further questions of the speaker? Our next speaker is Judith Casman. Madam, are you there?
Oh, I will hold my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. If you could give us your full name and address, please.
It's Judith Casman. I'm at 186 HILLHURST Boulevard.
Okay, thank you. If you can please give us your views on this proposal. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. I'm pleased to see that the builder has made some concessions, because I thought that the side yard setbacks were too minimal before. I'm glad that there was some compromise made. I'm concerned about the driveway being right on HILLHURST, though, because the people who are backing out of their driveway are going to be coming into people who are stopping at the stop sign at that intersection. That just occurred to me when I saw that plan view. So that's something to be considered. Especially since they don't stop. But aside from that, that's all I'd like to say at this time.
Well, I'll refer that question to the applicant when we call them back up. Okay, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gassemi. Are you there?
Yes. If I may have this site plan back on the screen, please.
This is emerald. Here's black. I own the black one. Black can look super dressy. Oh my goodness, it can. And then peach. So
A revised site plan that was submitted on July 2nd. This is the older copy. The newer copy is dated March 17.
I like what we're seeing. Yeah, and then you know what's really neat is that they've strategically placed this so it's not revealing for a bra strap at the side or for your bust. So smart. It's very discreet, but ladies, let's face it, there's really something about that peekaboo.
And can we refer to page, yes, 8001, which is, yes. If I take your attention to the irregular shape of the lot that we have, since it's a property, we are losing the the northwest side of our property, and if this was a regular property with that having to square off, we would not have any variance for our lot coverage, which is the best criteria to measure building mass in terms of our neighbors to the east comment about the side yard setback. If you see, there is about 5 to 6 meters space from our property to the curb, and also we are also setting our proposal 1.5 meters inside our property, which gives about 7 meters of open space, which can be used as a pedestrian path for whoever wants to walk along Caldo. We are very careful with our surrounding neighborhood, and we wanted to design something that fits this beautiful neighborhood. And also that's why we also work with the planning staff to address their concern. And I believe this proposal is a very good fit, and all the variances are minor. There is a lot of variances that are dealing with the setback itself, but collectively they're basically the same variance.
Okay,
I'll be
thank
happy
you,
to
sir.
answer more questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, did you have any discussions with Transportation Services about the location of your driveway? We've got no objections from them, but have you passed that by Transportation Services?
I believe this item was circulated to all the departments in the city. Our main reason that we oriented the driveway to the east was that big tree in the front of the garage.
I don't believe that it proposes any hazard to the existing stop control that's there, but you will have to take
I
out
believe
municipal
not.
road damage deposit, and if there is a problem, they may ask you to change the location of the driveway. Okay, so that's your risk. I don't think
Absolutely.
it's a problem, but you should check first.
Absolutely. So just to add to our neighbor's comment again, there are two beautiful trees, one on the north side and one on the east side, that we are planning to maintain both of them. And this driveway, as noted in our arborist report, is designed in a way that we're not going to damage those trees.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? Can I get a motion on this revised application, please? We'll just.
I have a question, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
Mr. Hunt, I'm sorry.
Thank you. In the original documentation, the staff recommendation was to refuse with concerns applicable to 8 variances. Now, there have been modifications to those, which the applicant has explained, and I'm just wondering if there's confirmation from the planning department that in fact those modifications are now acceptable and eliminates their concerns about the individual variances.
If I could add, Mr. Hunt, the changes that the applicant has made were the changes that were recommended by planning in the body of their report. And they indicated if the applicant did not make those changes, that the variances be refused. So the applicant has
He has made them. Right.
He has made those changes as recommended by planning.
Yeah, ergo, the
That's
planning
correct.
is satisfied.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll take, can I get motion on this application. I'll just go through it again, just to make sure we've got these variances correct.
Mr. Chair, I can make a motion and I've got the variances with
Okay,
me.
all right. Thank you, Ms.
I
Senko.
can speed this along for
Yes,
us,
thank you.
okay? So I've heard enough, and I was really grateful to hear that the neighbor opposite has the same size house and was welcoming in the design. Didn't hear that much bad feedback, and I do appreciate that the applicant made the changes that were requested in the staff report. So I will motion to approve this application, and it's subject to the changes made here today by the applicant, such that variance number 1 is now increased from 1.2 to 1.5 meters, variance number 2 to 1.96 meters into the required east setback. Variance number 3 will now have the dormer east side setback being 2.12 meters. Variance number 4, the eaves encroachment would now be decreased to 1.8 meters. Variance number 5, the proposed eaves now encroach at 0.9 meters. And moving along to variance number 8, we now will have a proposed lot coverage of 36%. Variance number 12, the west side yard setback will now be 1.2 meters. Variance number 13, the east side setback will be 1.5 meters. I will also take into consideration and add the staff's additional comments about permeable materials to be used for the proposed driveway, and the property be developed substantially in accordance with the revised site plan drawing. And I will also make it subject to forestry.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sankar. Can I get someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously, sir. Your revised application has been approved unanimously, subject to city planning and urban forestry conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
We are now on item number, actually, would the committee like to take a break? Is this a good time for
Maybe
a break?
5 minutes. 5 minutes?
Okay. Or would the staff need more? Okay, we'll be back in 5 minutes. 3:05. What's that?
Have a look at this, your classic black. This could be dressed up, girls, to highest of high events. I'm talking red carpet events, depending on what you pair it with. Or just pair it with some great sneakers, a scarf, and a straw hat and handbag, and you look totally incredible. And then look at this one. Black multi is the one with the butterflies. Now, if you go online and read the 5-star reviews, one of the reviews is mentioning how beautiful this butterfly pattern is. And you can see there, gorgeous monarch butterflies, beautiful pale blues and yellows and pinks and oranges. Sizes range from extra small all the way up to 3X. And you're looking at 95% polyester and 5% elastic.
Takes 20 minutes to go through all
that. Stretch, something that is comfortable just to step into. This one here is called the navy and chartreuse. And actually, this is the one that's my pick. I love this color combination, and I love that the background is navy, but it's that real midnight navy. So it will go with all of your blacks. It will go with all of the colors in your wardrobe. Again, you step into this. There's no buttons or zippers. Super easy to get dressed when you are shopping Kim & Co. And again, of course, always the perfect pockets. Sizes range from extra small all the way up to 3X. You can easily belt this if you wanted to, but she always gives us really cool features that we call fit tricks. So with this one here, you do have, as I mentioned, that ruching detail, which kind of hides and diverts the eye away, so nothing is too clingy. And then there's a panel that almost looks like a belt. And if you see that, that gives your waist that look of being small, a look of being thin. You can easily put a belt on this as well if you wanted to do that. So again, this is that navy chartreuse. Here is the green multi with those beautiful blooms. Classic black, girls. You cannot go wrong with the classic black. This will be in your wardrobe literally forever. And then, of course, very popular, and if you go read those reviews, this is the black multi. Shop the entire collection online at tsc.ca.
single one of my products helps change your life for the better. With all the problems I had with pillows my whole life, I needed something that you could adjust. My friends all laughed at me that I would get a patent on a pillow. When I finally had it, I went, wow, this is going to change the world. The adjustability of my pillow is what makes it different than any pillow out there, where you adjust it for you as an individual, and it's the most amazing sleep you're ever going to get.
This was a paid program. The opinions expressed were those of the presenters.
Un segmento del suo episodista na Eagle Nëse po organizoni festë familjare, dikush duhet gatuar për ju apo jo? Për ditëlindje, pakëzime, fejesa, dasma apo veprimtari komunitare, Alba Catering and Events ju zgjidh problemin me zgjedhjet e larmishme. Kuzhinë ndërkombëtare dhe shqiptare. Telefononi Rudinën. Beqiri Professional,
Okay.
ekspertë në çështje.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. Committee's back in session. We are now on item number 18, 370 Saint Germain Avenue. I have two speakers registered for this item. The agent is a Mr. David Smith. Are you there, sir?
I am. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask if you've had the, could I get your full name and address, please?
Sure. It's David Smith, 401 Craven Road, Toronto, Ontario.
I just wanted to ask if you've had the opportunity to see the city planning report of May 22nd. They indicated that they didn't have any objection to the application, provided that permeable materials are to be used when paving the proposed driveway.
Yes, I've seen both the planning and transportation, and we're happy with both.
Okay, great. Thank you. I would just ask, there is one other person registered to speak, sir, so if you could give us a very brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Certainly. Jenny, if you could bring up the drawing set, that'd be appreciated. I actually submitted a response. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read it, where I go through all the variances. I'll just briefly walk through that response. Let me know if you have any questions. So if Jenny, if you could go to page 7 of the drawing set that was submitted. So simply put, if we look at the height variance of 10.4, it's specific to the front elevation. There's a projecting bay window and gable roof, which I'm not sure if there's a delay. Oh, yeah, page 7. All right, sorry, the front elevation. Sorry, you guys have many more pages. Just the front. So this is the rear. So from here you can see that there's a gable roof at the front of the house that's producing this variance of 0.4 above the permitted. There you go. Thank you so much. So it's really just that gable tip that's projecting above the 10-meter height. The vast majority of the building complies with the building height. Similarly, for building length, this bay window projection is what produces the 18.1 length variance, and if we were to measure the actual building, it's down to 17.35. It's worth noting that we worked extensively with city planning in developing this proposal, and it is very much in keeping with what has been developed in the neighborhood. With my submitted response, I also included a variety of proposals that were approved in the neighborhood, and for all of our variances, this is noted in my response, there are examples from the neighborhood where our variances sit within the range of what has been previously approved. So I think that's worth noting. With regards to the FSI variance, again, this was a very particular number we had to maintain for planning purposes. And really it's because of the integral garage. We are effectively having the ground floor replace our basement. So if this was below grade, we would actually comply and there would be no FSI variance. It's only because it's now out of the ground to deal with the garage. So that's not necessarily a technical variance, but certainly if we had a basement, we would be here for that one. With regards to roof eave, again, you can see this on the front elevation. This is actually a narrower building than what's currently existing on the lot. And the existing eave encroaches on the neighbor's property. So we've tried to deal with that. Because we have a right-of-way to the west side of this property, again, by default, you end up having a narrow and tall building when you try to meet the FSI requirements of the family. So this sort of helps with the architecture, deals with the architecture, but it forces us as close as possible to the east while producing variances that are sort of appropriate. But again, the roof eaves is simply the eave itself, nothing else. The rest complies. And then with regards to front yard landscaping and soft landscaping, we've done our very best considering we do have a paved right-of-way as well as a driveway that immediately disqualify themselves from being considered landscaping. And we fully support planning's suggestion to use semi-permeable on the driveway to help with water runoff and water absorption and all of that. So we think that, I mean, again, makes a lot of sense, and we'd actually proposed it ourselves. Okay. Beyond that, I'll let the other speaker speak and answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? No, thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Rob Inglis. Sir, are you there? Mr. Inglis?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Is that you, Mr. Inglis?
Yes, it's Robert
Sir,
Inglis.
can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, it's Robert Inglis, INGLAS, at 366 St. Germain Avenue, 2 houses to the east of the proposed building.
Okay. Please
Yeah,
go ahead.
just thank you for the opportunity to speak today. As I mentioned, I'm a homeowner, 2 homes to the east of the proposed home. So first off, I'd like to say I do support development in our community, and I've seen many new dwellings erected on our street in the 19 years that we've lived in our home on St. Germain Avenue. The home at 379 Saint Germain, which is across the street from us, was a demolition about 3 to 4 years ago, and I believe that new home only had one very minor height variance. So having said that, I'm concerned with the overall impact of this new 3-story home. Many of the homes on our street are existing 2-story homes, and this I feel would be out of character in the neighborhood, being a 3-story home. And as there are 10 variances, I believe that they appear to be excessive. So as I mentioned in my submission on June 29th, I'm concerned about the following. Landscaping, number 6 and number 8 in the list of 10 variances. There's a significant landscape variance of almost 30% reduction. As the houses to the east of this proposed home are on a downslope, including mine, this increases the flooding potential, which has been an issue in the past. Having less landscaping, I believe, only exacerbates this issue. Also, there's a very large city maple tree in the front yard of this home. I believe that the minimal front yard landscaping may negatively impact this majestic old maple tree. And there's also 100 feet or so white pine tree in the backyard of the property adjacent to the west of this home. City forestry, I believe, made the homeowner trim this tree after significant ice storm damage several years ago. So I'm concerned that this large pine may be negatively affected by this development. House height and depth, so number 2 and 4, the previous speaker mentioned that. The height variance is 12% greater than the bylaw, and the depth is 6.5. As a homeowner 2 down from this home, this will have a detrimental impact to our western exposure. We spend a significant amount of time on our back deck and backyard in these warmer months, and this increased height and depth will certainly impact our light and westerly sunset views. Floor space, number 3 on the list of 10. The floor space variance is almost 40% greater than the area of the lot. This does not appear to be minor. And driveway size, number 7. The driveway variance is 30%. The previous speaker did speak to that. Again, this will reduce the amount of green space and increase rainwater runoff downward to the homes to the east, again increasing the flood risk.
Sir, if I could add, the committee doesn't deal with drainage issues. The applicant's required to submit a new lot grading plan when he submits for an application for a building permit, and that lot grading plan has to show that all the water is being contained on his own property or is being funneled away from the adjacent neighbors. So that's handled at the building permit stage.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was unaware of that. Those are my main concern with the 10 variances to this proposed new home.
Okay,
thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? There being none, I will go back to Mr. Smith. You have the opportunity to address the concerns raised by the previous speaker.
Yes, well, first of all, I appreciate Rob coming out and speaking to this matter. To your point, we have to submit and have a grading and drainage plan approved. So all water that comes off of our building has to be managed appropriately, and we plan to do that. With regards to forestry, they've reviewed the property, and you guys know they submitted a report. We have no intentions of touching these trees. They are well away from where we plan to build, and should not be impacted at all. And again, just to stipulate, I mean, because there is a lot of development in this neighborhood, I don't know if Jenny has time to bring up the site plan that the city mailer sends out, but if you guys have had a chance to look at the neighborhood, there is a lot of turnover. This is a transitional neighborhood where a lot of buildings of this size and character developed And it was an extensive review with city planning to make sure that the development was appropriate, not only with what was previously approved, but with what was appropriate for the size of the lot. And we would not have gotten this far with city planning if they thought that it wasn't in keeping. It's also worth noting that we circulated information to all of the neighborhood, and aside from Mr. Inglis's opposition, by way of the fact that nobody else is opposed, it should be understood that most people are supportive of this application. That's all I really wanted to say. Happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. You know, I think that the explanations provided by the applicant were really helpful. And I think that a lot of consideration went into that. And I will make this application subject to forestry. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, but I'll motion to approve it, again, subject to forestry. And I'll make it subject to also the staff report. There was a change, and I'm not sure if Jenny can bring that up on the screen there, but
That was the condition from city planning that permeable materials be used in the driveway.
Be used for the driveway. That's it. Okay, thank you so much. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Can I have someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries. Sir, your application's been unanimously approved, subject to city planning and urban forestry conditions.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you
great
very
afternoon.
much, sir. We're now on item number 19, 11 Old Park Road. We have only one speaker registered for this item. I'll just go to it. We have Nancy Mandel, the property owner for 11 Old Park Road. Ms. Mandel, are you there?
I am, but as I explained to the person on email yesterday, I'm using my email, but it's my husband who's going to speak, Lionel Mandel. He's also owns the property.
We have, you're the only person who has registered to speak on this item, madam.
Lionel Mandel. He was the applicant, Lionel Mandel.
All right, then. I'm just going to say that can we get both your names then?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, sorry. It's Nancy Mandel, Mandell, and Lionel Mandel, Lionel.
And your address?
11 Old Park Road.
Okay, thank you. I noticed that you have just the one variance before us today related to the building length. It's very clear what you're asking for. There are no comments from municipal departments other than urban forestry, and there's no one registered to speak on this item, so I'm just going to ask the committee if it has any questions or it would like a presentation. Okay, thank you. Since there was no one registered to speak on this item, if I could get a motion on this application, please. Mr. Hunt? Oh, Mr. Hunt, your speaker's off. We can't hear you.
That better?
That's better.
Okay. I would move approval of this application. I believe that it is in keeping with the 4 tests prescribed, and I think that subject to urban forestry comments, I would recommend approval.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second Mr. Hunt's motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Madam, your application has been unanimously approved, subject to urban forestry conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting. We're now on item number 2217 Kingsdale Avenue. I've got one person registered to speak here, and that is an Ali Asadinik, the agent. No one else registered to speak. Sir, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here. This is Ali Asadinik. I'm the owner and applicant.
Okay, sir, have
for
you had the
217
opportunity? Can
Kingsdale.
I get your full name and address, please?
Ali Asadinik, 217 Kingsdale Avenue, North York, M2N3X1.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask, have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of 22nd
Yes, I
of May?
did. Yeah, I definitely did. We were in communication with the city staff, and we would be happy to accept the condition specified in the staff report.
Okay, now, they're indicating that you're proposing to revise your application, specifically variance number 3 for the proposed side exterior main wall height.
That's correct. Yeah, we actually revised the drawings to lower the top of the window to reduce the main wall height from 8.93 meters to 8.78 meters.
Okay, hang on just a second. So you're proposing to change which variance number?
Number 3.
Number 3, okay. And
Yeah.
that's changing from 8.93 to how much?
8.78.
8.78 meters. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only change we would make.
And I just wanted to ask, have you also seen their recommended condition that should the committee approve the application, that it be developed substantially in accordance with the east and west elevation drawings that have been submitted to the committee? You've seen that condition as well.
Yes, I did. There's no problem.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask that there is no one else registered to speak on this item. The variances you're requesting, your revised variance, is very clear what you're asking for. I'll just ask the committee if it has any questions or it would like a presentation.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. May I?
What's that, sir?
Yeah, on my zoning review, there is one variance that's missed from the notice, actually.
Oh, hang on,
And
just,
that's
okay, hang on a second. Are you proposing to add new variances?
no, actually, I'm not sure why it's missed from the notice. It's like
No,
related
not
to
from the
all-
zoning notice. You have to read from the notice that was circulated to the public.
Yeah, but I submitted the zoning notice to the committee, and like on the notice, I just noted that one variance is missing. Number 4, it's related to the building height in old bylaw.
What's that, sir?
On my zoning notice, okay. there
We
is one
don't have
variance.
that before us, sir. We have 4 variances before us. Did you have the actual notice that was circulated, the public hearing notice? That's what we're reading
Yes,
from.
I do.
That then
Yeah,
refer
yeah,
to
I
that, not to
understand.
the zoning notice.
Okay, I understand that, but
Do you have the public
there is-
hearing notice?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then
I do
refer to
have
that, not to the zoning notice.
All right, okay. So how
Okay.
about the missed notice on my zoning notice?
Okay, so the public hearing notice has the 4 variances listed.
I totally understand. There is a zoning notice submitted to the Committee of Adjustment. Okay, yeah, number 4. You see over there? It's on the screen.
Mr. Chairman, if there's a variance missing, the application has to be deferred in order that we can circulate a proper notice.
Okay, so there's a mistake? Looks like it?
Looks like it.
Looks like it.
Mr. Chair, I can motion to defer the application.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, let me just tell, sir, there's an error on the application. It will have to be, we'll have to defer the application to correct the notice and then recirculate it to the public. I'm sorry.
All right, okay, no problem.
Okay, Ms. Sankar, you have a motion to defer the application? Can I have someone to
Yes, sir.
Can I have someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been deferred until the next available meeting so that you can meet with the building department and correct this error and have a proper circulation done again. Thank you, sir. My
Oh,
apologies.
no problem. No problem. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Item number 21, 7 Rondell Boulevard. I have one speaker registered to speak. That's Mr. Rubinoff. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Rubinoff, thank you. I noticed with your application there's 2 variances that you're requesting. It's very clear what you're asking for in your application. One's for building length, one's for building height. I'll just ask the committee if it has any questions or comments. I noticed that there's no one registered to depute on this item, and we have no recommended staff conditions or comments. So does the committee require a presentation, or does it have any questions? Okay, thank you. Could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend approval of this based on the fact that the variances are minor in nature. They maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw and the official plan, and it's consistent with development of neighboring properties.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second Mr. Hunt's motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Mr. Rubinoff, your application's been approved without condition. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now on item number 22. This is 92 Mona Drive. And I see we have an agent and 3 other deputants. Is the agent there a Thai Ryuk? I hope I've pronounced that correctly.
It's okay, sir. Yes, I'm here. My name is Tay Ruck.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you could give us your full name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Tay, T-A-E. Last name's Ruck, R-Y-U-C-K. I'm the planner for the owners of the property at 92 Mona Drive.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report on May 22nd?
Yes, sir, we have.
And you're aware that they're recommending modifying variance number 2, that's the floor space index, so that it's not more than 0.68 times the area of the lot.
Yes, we are aware. We did have conversations with city planning staff to discuss the matter, but unfortunately we reached an impasse and just had difference of opinion on what that FSI really means as it
Okay,
relates to physical.
let's just park that for a second.
Sure.
I want to make sure you're aware of the other conditions that they were recommending should we approve the application, that develop substantially in accordance with the site plan drawings, and that you provide opaque screening along the north edge of the proposed rear deck with a minimum height of 1.5 meters. So
Yes, we're satisfied with those conditions.
Okay, so are you proposing to change your floor space index?
No, sir.
Okay, you're going to keep it at 0.80. Okay, thank you.
Yes,
If you could give us a presentation on what you see are the merits of your proposal and why you don't think planning recommendation is appropriate.
Sure, sir. The plans, if the committee staff could pull up the red line site plan and front elevations that I had submitted to the Committee of Adjustment on the screen for your review. Basically, sir, there's 6 variances before you today to facilitate the construction of a 3,994 square foot single detached dwelling, or 371.08 meters squared in terms of gross floor area. That results in a floor space index of 0.8 times the area of the lot. In addition to that, there's variances related to the side yard setbacks on both sides. And furthermore, also a building, also a rear yard setback variance and a building height variance as well. What you see before you at the committee is if you could go to the first page of the attachment for the red line site plan and elevations, front elevations. It was an attachment that I sent to the committee. Hello. It was a separate PDF file titled Redline Site Plan Front Elevation.
We have it in our report, Mr. Chair, so
Yes,
that we can
have,
follow.
it's not necessary for it to be shown on screen for committee members.
Sure, no, not a problem, sir. I just wasn't aware if you had it in front of you. But basically what it shows is the red dotted line represents the existing dwelling that's on the property today. It's a two-story single detached dwelling. There is a yellow box that's been described, or that's been overlaid on top of that. That represents an as-of-right building envelope. So what that means is a 7.5 meters, a 7.5 or greater meters rear yard setback, 1.5 meter side yard setbacks on both sides, and also the front yard setback being in compliance, and also at a building depth or length of 17 meters. That results in a total gross floor area of 4,414.16 square meters, or an FSI of 0.89 FSI. So that is an as-of-right building envelope that is permitted on this property. The reason for the increased number in terms of FSI is a result of the fact that if you go to the area context map that was submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, you'll see the property that's been highlighted in red, and it's a shorter property compared to more of the traditional length properties in the area. And where you find those properties is along Mona Drive where these key lots exist. If this home was placed on a traditional lot at approximately 120 feet, whereas the subject site is 100 feet, you would arrive at the similar number at 0.6 or 0.65 as recommended by city staff. This is FSI numbers solely being dictated by the fact that the length of the property is shorter than typical of what's found in the neighborhood. However, when you look at it from a massing perspective, and you'll note on the site plan, from the existing dwelling has a closer side yard setback than what's being proposed on either side. So the side yard setback has been increased on towards the north and to the south to 1.22 meters. In addition to that, the dwelling length itself is 16.77 meters, with the exception of a one-story bump out at the rear of the property, which is highlighted in green. That is beyond the portion in green is the portion that is beyond the 7.5. That is encroaching into the 7.5 meter rear yard setback. However, with that being said, a 7.17 meters rear yard setback only for that portion, from a impact perspective towards the property towards the west and also towards the north, and especially to the south, there is
20
no
seconds,
impact.
sir. Can you summarize?
Yes, sir. And basically, I will address this with the rebuttal, but basically when you look at the map, there's letters of support provided by 90 and 6 letters of support that have been provided. And with that being said, I'll be answer any questions and provide any rebuttals through questions from the opposition.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? Being none, we'll move to the next person on the agenda, Mr. James Dale. Are you there, sir?
Can you hear me? I'm here
yes,
now.
Yes, Mr. Dale, we can hear you.
Okay.
Can I get your full name and address, please?
My name's James Dale, and I live at 90 Mona Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Which is the property directly south of the property in question here.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that a couple of comments. I did sign a support letter, but we've lived here for over 20 years. And we were informed by the Dicks, the owners of 92, over a year ago, they were looking to rebuild their house. And us being the most affected lot by what they're doing. And by that, I mean, their entire 100-foot lot, the south side of it is adjacent to our lot. And our building currently right now is 7 feet away from theirs. And so we're the fact that we expressed a lot of interest in sort of what they were going to do. We looked around the neighborhood, we did research as to what was the norm and what sort of things were being built via new builds on 50 by 100-foot lots. And we gathered that information and found a lot of them were around 0.8 or in that vicinity. And in fact, two of them north of us on Mona, new builds, exact same lot, had sizes and sort of looks very similar to what is being proposed. We felt therefore that was sort of the norm, so that's what we expected. When we saw their plans, we were keen on the design. We thought it fit very well with the hood, and we also found that the dimensions and the variances requested were pretty much in line with what we expected, seeing these other rebuilds in the area. So basically, from our perspective, we were very happy with what we saw. We also found that the current house has a 3-foot setback to the north of us, and that the proposal actually makes it a 4-foot setback, which means we gain a foot of space, as do, I believe, the people on the north of the building as well. So we have more room on our side lot. We have a new build that I think is tastefully designed. It fits the neighborhood. Its size and variances are similar to what we see. There are similar ones in the hood of lots that size. So we thought it was very well done. And just a heads up that we've lived here for 20 years. They've lived here for 20 years. They've been upstanding neighbors at all times. They're not builders or spec home flippers or anything like that. We expect they'll probably be there a long time. And overall, we were appreciative of how they handled this in terms of dealing with the neighbors in advance. And we found through, based on our research, that their plans were very much in line with what we expected. And, we're excited and supportive of their proposal. And frankly, we're excited about the further improvement to the neighborhood.
Well, that's terrific, sir. It's good to hear that. Does the committee have
I can answer any questions.
Does the committee have any questions or comments of the speaker? Thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker is Lee English. Are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. English, you have the opportunity to make your concerns about this application.
Yes, thank you. First, I'll give you my full name and address, if that's okay.
Yes, your name and address, please, sir.
Yes, my name's Lee English. I'm a lawyer with Borden Ladner Gervais, LLP. My address is Bay Adelaide Centre, East Tower, 22 Adelaide Street West, Suite 3400.
Okay, thank you.
And I represent James and Jennifer Hubbard, the owners of 357 Glencairn Avenue.
Okay. Please proceed.
Okay, I'll start. So we're here to speak in opposition of the variance application. There's other opposition as well. I note that the owners of 353 Glencairn and 335 Glencairn have submitted letters of opposition. Our most pressing concerns are with respect to the density and side yard setback variances and the resulting adverse impacts on our property and the other properties to the north of 92 Mona. The application does not respect the character of the neighborhood. This is reflected in the staff report and in a recent decision from the Toronto Local Appeal Body with respect to 93 Mona Drive, which is referenced in our submissions. We request that the committee refuse this application. The applicant has made no efforts to respond to our concerns, as the applicant's consultant began by saying that they didn't resolve the concerns of city planning staff either. I immediately want to respond to the comment of Mr. Rock about the site plan red line. It talks about an as-of-right building envelope, and of course, the density permission is a requirement to build as of right, and to say that just because it fits within all of the setbacks is inaccurate. It is not as of right. It is simply just a reflection of the side and rear yard setbacks. Of course, Mr. Rock did not submit the application. The architect did, and I noticed the same architect that worked on 90 Mona Drive in 2015. So I'll review the test briefly. Firstly, the variance is not minor. With respect to FSI, the permitted FSI in this area is 0.35. The applicant wants to go to 0.8. The application for 90 Mona was 0.6833, and as the staff report notes, there are very few, if any, applications for more than 0.68 FSI in this neighborhood. This house is too big for too small of a lot. The impacts on our client's property are really exasperated by the fact that this is a side yard to rear yard lot layout, so that any extension into the rear yard of the applicant's property will impact our property more significantly than, say, 90 Mona Drive, where they have a side yard to side yard relationship. This relationship was reflected and discussed in the TLAB decision with respect to 93 Mona. And in fact, our property is highlighted as a affected property, not an affecting property, and it's identified as one of the properties that would suffer significant impacts from rear yard development on Mona Drive. With respect to the side yard setback, again, the rear to side yard layout of these lots means that our client or our Mr. Hubbard don't enjoy a rear yard to rear yard setback. So any changes are more significant, again, because of the side to rear yard relationship. There are a number of significant impacts to our client's property. It will block the rear yard and reduce enjoyment. There will be a balcony in the rear yard that will create oversight issues into the backyard, and windows, which again are exasperated by the rear and side yard lot configuration. There has to be a removal of a tree on the northern lot line. You see photos 8 and 9 of the applicant's additional materials. Identify a tree that clearly is going to have to go or be significantly altered. Given the southern orientation of our client's backyard, there will be impacts with respect to light. This is not the case for 90 Mona Drive and the lots on Strathallan. As well, on Strathallan, there are intervening subsidiary buildings, garages between 90 and the buildings and the homes on Strathallan. And so they reduce a lot of the impact, the visual and actual impacts of that lot. So it's a different lot. They're trying to put the same house that's on 90 Mona Drive on 92 Mona Drive. It's a different lot with different considerations. And again, significant impacts on the northern properties. And I'll speak quickly to say that the general intent of the purpose of the official plan is not maintained. This does not respect or reinforce the existing physical character. The 93 Mona Drive TLAB decision states that to do that, you must acknowledge the situation and appropriately respond. There's been no acknowledgement and no response in this case. The application today is the same that was submitted and has not responded to any concerns.
Sir, can you summarize?
Absolutely. I see I have 15 seconds. So I say that there is no test here that is satisfied. The FSI variance is too significant. We ask that it be refused. In order to develop in accordance with the site plan, they need to redraw the plans. And so it's not sufficient to simply reduce the FSI. And that's my time. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just wanted to ask, sir, if they're not requesting any variances regarding building length, depth, or coverage. They're increasing the side yard setbacks over the existing conditions. If he reduced the FSI down to what's recommended by planning, would you be in favor of the application?
It would depend on the drawing. You'll see that on the southern side of the lot, the house is set back further from 90 Mona than it is from our properties. And again, the TLAB decision reflects the fact that the properties to the north are more significantly affected due to the side to rear yard relationship. So we would have a harder time opposing the 0.68 density, but we think that because of the applicant's refusal to make any concessions and the way the plans are submitted, that it should be refused.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Next speaker is a Jennifer Evola. Are you there, Ms. Evola? Miss Evola?
Oh, no. Oh, can you hear me?
Madam, we're picking up feedback. Do you have speakers on or another electronic device tuned into the same channel?
Hi, Chair. Is this a little bit better?
Okay, that's better.
Okay.
Madam, can I get your full name and address, please?
Absolutely. So my full name is Jennifer Vola. I'm an associate lawyer at Divine Park LLP. And we are located at 250 Young Street, Suite 2302. And I have my client, Peter Simon, on the line, who lives at 353 Glencairn Avenue.
Okay, thank you, madam. If you could, you have 5 minutes to give us your views on this application.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. At the outset, I would like to echo the submissions of Mr. English. There is a unique lot orientation that the committee should be aware of, and that 353 Glencairn and 357 Glencairn are significantly impacted by this application. My client's property neighbors the application's property to the north, and they have not been consulted other than a brief conversation right before when written submissions were due. They have been neighbors for 18 years. My client's rear yard lot line borders the application's north side lot line. There will be an increased impact to my client's property due to this application. The FSI northern yard setback of this application will have, my apologies. As the committee will see in our letter of objection, the application fails to maintain the general intent of the official plan. As you know, the site is designated neighborhoods. New development in neighborhoods must respect and reinforce the existing physical character of the area and must be compatible with existing development. Changes to established neighborhoods are expected to be sensitive, gradual, and generally fit the existing physical character. Development is to respect massing, scale, and density of nearby residential properties. And zoning bylaws contain numerical site standards for matters such as density. These are the factors that inform the general intent. This application meets none of these criteria and do not uphold the general intent of the official plan. The application is not sensitive to and does not fit the existing physical character of the neighborhood, as evidenced by the oversized home being proposed to be placed on an undersized lot with no regard to the impact to its northern neighbors. Nor does it respect the massing, scale, and density of nearby residential properties. If the committee could look at the area context map that was submitted by the applicant's planner, from a quick overview, we will be able to see that the GFA that's being pointed out as being similar is often on lots that are significantly larger than the lot that is now home to 92 Mona Drive and this application. There are no changes that are to be made through minor variances that are out of keeping with the overall physical character of the entire neighborhood. This would be a change out of keeping. This application also fails to maintain the general intent of the zoning bylaw. To uphold the general intent of the zoning bylaw, one must result in a project that implements the official plan. We have seen that this does not. Does not create a nuisance or adverse planning impact and results in a fitting and compatible land use planning solution. The northern side yard setback proposed in the application certainly causes a nuisance for my client. It will remove a beautiful, mature tree that my client believes is underrepresented in the site plan. The committee must also pay attention to this unique configuration, as the northern side yard setback proposed will result in a 7.45 meter wall running the entire length of my client's rear yard from 1.2 meters away, 1.22. No mitigating measures have been proposed by the applicant, like step backs proposed on the southern side, or even minor measures such as frosting on the north side windows. Furthermore, the application is not desirable. As discussed in the city staff report, the committee has not generally approved FSIs of this magnitude in this area. Even the application for 237 Courtleigh Boulevard, heard earlier, had a requested FSI of 0.67. And you heard the neighborhood impact from that application. The application is seeking to do essentially setting a precedent of approvals far exceeding the density permissible under zoning bylaw 569/2013 in the surrounding area. Finally, that same adverse impact discussed above individually causes some of the variances not to be minor and collectively makes an application that can only be refused by the committee. Subject to any questions the committee may have.
Madam,
those are
you
my
have 30
submissions.
seconds. Can you summarize, please?
I'm finished, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
One question I would have is that my client would seek the committee's indulgence to make submissions.
To make which?
Submissions?
No, you can't do that. You make your presentation. It's up to the committee to make, well, we can't make revisions to an application because then it's a new application and requires a new circulation.
Pardon, not submissions to the application.
So madam, we either
Please,
approve the
Deputy.
application or refuse it.
I understand that, sir. I'm asking if my client can speak.
Oh, madam, you're speaking on behalf of your client, so your client doesn't have to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go back to the agent for the applicant. You have the opportunity to address the concerns raised by the previous speakers.
Yes, there was a couple of things. So there was a statement made that 92 Mona, which is the immediate house south of us, is the exact same house that we're proposing on the subject site. That is not the case. The proposed the dwelling that's constructed at 90 Mona is 1,000 approximately 800 or 900 square feet larger than the proposed, at 4,860 square feet versus 3,994, which is being proposed on the subject site. So it is not the same house that's being proposed on the subject site. It is a smaller house that is being proposed. In addition, the as-of-right building envelope that was indicated on the red line plan, what that shows and goes to the point is the fact that the FSI number in certain cases is just a number and isn't representative of overdevelopment on the site, as can be seen on the plan. You have a building envelope that can be permitted within the within the permitted setbacks, heights, and also lengths, which results in a higher FSI than the proposed. So in this particular case, you have an FSI, an as-of-right building envelope, an FSI of 0.89 versus a 0.8 that's being proposed on the subject site. With that in matter, there was also the mention of the TLAB decision from 93 Mona Drive. That proposal is on a different configured lot, as you can see on the property area context map. In addition to that, there was the variances related to the north side yard setback for 93 Mona, which were less than what's being proposed on the subject site. The variances related to 93 Mona for north side yard setback was 0.93 meters, whereas the proposed on the subject site is 1.22. So we do have a larger side yard setback than 93 Mona, and also within that, with also consideration is the proposal was 93 Mona was a second-story additions at the rear of the existing homes, which had greater massing towards the houses to the north. In this particular case, we do have a dwelling length in principle that is less than 17 meters, set back further at the north side yard setback line. In addition to that, an as-of-right building envelope could be 17 meters in length, 2 stories in height at 1.5 meters setback. So you would still have the same massing, but the proposal is different in the sense that it is scaled back along the side yard setbacks. And when you go to the photos on page numbers, numbers 8, 9, and 10 on the third page, what you do see along the north side yard lot line is trees and shrubbery, which provides for additional mitigation and buffers along that north side yard edge. Furthermore, in combination with the fact that the side yard, the proposed dwelling has been set back further from the north side yard line. There is also mention about shadows being concerned. This house is located south of the property with trees in between. In addition, the variance is related to height is 10.25, whereas 10 meters is permitted. And as shown on the front elevation, the red line front elevation, the established grade line where the height measurement is measured from is actually below physical grade. From physical grade to the top of the roof is 10 meters, which is permitted under the bylaw. So it's a little bit of a technical variance that we're seeking along in terms of height. So I would submit to you from its height and from a massing and from a shadowing perspective, there really is none. In terms of character, this is a single detached home on a lot that is undersized comparative to what's traditionally found in the neighborhood. This is an anomaly in terms of lot patterns. This is the same case for 93, which is a much larger lot in an L configuration across the street. This particular lot, as I indicated, happens to be about approximately 20 feet shorter than the traditional lots found in the area. And as a result of that, creates an FSI number that is larger than what's being found in terms of approvals in the area. However, the size of home in terms of gross floor area at approximately 4,000 square feet is well within the realm of homes found in the area on smaller lots and also on traditional lots. So I would submit to you that the FSI number in this particular case will not create a precedent in any regard because of the nature of the lot size and lot depth, and it would represents a home that is more than appropriate in terms of massing, the way it's been set back from adjacent properties, in terms of height, and also the way it presents to the street, as one cannot be able to tell if this was a 0.6 times house, 0.89.
Sir, can you summarize, please?
Or whatnot. So as a result, this is a meritorious application. It does meet the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. It does not create any new undue impacts that is uncharacteristic that's found in the neighborhood today, and does represent good planning. And in terms of conditions and conditions from planning staff, if this application is approved, we have no issues with them.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being Mr. Hunt?
The term "as of right" has been used on several occasions in the presentation. And to my mind, if everything is built as of right, then that translates to confirmation with the zoning bylaw and the official plan, and therefore there really is no need for variances. I'm just wondering how you get around the issue of a 4,000 square foot house on a 5,000 square foot lot and consider that a minor variance.
So, sir, when it says as of right, it's the as of right building envelope. So the physical perimeter of the building that's permitted on the site in terms of setbacks, front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks, and building length. So obviously that does not include FSI. So that is not the case. So that point, all that is to show is an FSI is a number, because density or FSI could be deployed on a property in many different forms and in many different ways. So you could have less or reduced side yards or reduced front yards or increased lengths of a building, all arriving at a same FSI number, but it'll be in a different form. So all that is to show, all that my exhibit is to show, is a building envelope that is permitted as of right, physically in terms of the perimeter. In terms of your question about a 4,000 square foot home on a 5,000 square foot lot, it's not a single floor. It's been deployed in 2 stories, so approximately 2,000 square foot each per floor, and at a height and length that is more than appropriate, and in terms it is keeping with adjacent properties within the area. Any impacts to the properties to the north in terms of rear yard, we have taken that into consideration and have increased the side yard setback along that edge from the existing condition from approximately 0.9 to 1.22 meters. The case that the TLAB case that was mentioned about 93 was seeking a less side yard setback along the north side yard at approximately 0.93 of a meter. That is a different application, and it was also for a second-story addition. I believe the second-story addition at the rear of a much larger home on that property. To compare the two of 93 and the subject site is a little bit different. It's apples and oranges, and I don't think it's a good comparison because it is a different sized lot and different configuration and a different proposal. However, the big difference between the two is that we are providing for an increased side yard setback. We're not providing a building that is a 2-story building portion that is larger than 17 meters. And it is at a height and scale that is more than appropriate and found within the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does you get your answer, Mr. Hunt?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, could I get any further questions of the speaker? Could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Kidd?
Afraid I haven't been exactly persuaded with regard to the argument over the variance number 2, the proposed floor space index. to suggest that the size of the house is right, but unfortunately the lot is too small. It is, for me, not a persuasive argument. And I don't feel that it's necessarily appropriate development for the neighborhood, nor of a minor nature. I'd like to put forward a motion to refuse the application.
Okay, we have a motion to refuse from Mr. Kidd. Will someone second that motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Ms. Sankar dissenting. Sir, your application has been refused.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. We're now on item number 23, which is 31 Brentcliffe Road. I have two people registered to speak, the agent and an area resident. I have Mr. Ismatullah Amiri. Are you there?
Yeah.
Sir, thank you. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes. Hello. Do you hear me? Hello.
Can I get your full name and address, please, sir?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Can we please get
Hello?
your name and address,
Your
please?
name and address, sir.
My name is Ismatullah Amiri. My address is 48 Cove Bank Crescent, Brampton, but we are here for 31 Brentcliffe Road.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, you have seen the Transportation Services report of May 19th?
Yes. Yes, we have it. Yes.
They indicated that they had no objections to your application. I had a number of questions. There's a derelict vehicle parked in one of your parking spaces that looks like it's been there for a very long time, a white BMW that's convertible with a black convertible roof. It's full of garbage. Why is it there?
Yes, sir. I have the owner here. He wants to explain the situation.
No, you're the agent, sir. You have to. You're the one who
Okay.
has to do the explaining.
Sure. Yeah. So that vehicle was there for a long time, but since
It's been over 8 months.
over 8 months, the vehicle have been removed, and it's not right now present at the at that parking spot. So it has been removed.
It has been removed. Okay, you're sure of
Yes.
that? Okay, I wanted to ask as well, you indicated that you have parking spaces that you on the adjacent it would be your side yard. There's 3 parking spaces there, and in order to access those spaces, they have to drive over your neighbor's property. But you don't have a legal right of way over that property, do you?
We don't have a legal right of way, but we have a mutual agreement letter with the neighboring building. They have also some parking spots, so we in this application there's a mutual agreement between the buildings owners to have parking spots over there.
Okay, but if the neighbor wanted to, there's nothing stopping them from putting up a fence along the common.
It would be against both tenants' interest then, because
Yeah,
both
but
tenants
there's
have to get to their.
Okay. All right, fine, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just ask if you could make a very brief presentation to the committee on what you see as the merits of your proposal. We do have someone registered to speak on this item, sir.
Yes, sir. So usually, originally our client referred us for the basement apartment, which had a violation for the apartment to be there, because previously it was the storage space or something. But since my client, he bought this house in 2001, and prior to 2001, this area had the apartments there,
and I didn't know about this. And originally we came with this, we started with the violation of the bylaw for the basement apartment. And then we came to know that there's parking issues, and then we, to solve the parking issues, we referred to an engineering company who did the parking study, and they approved it, and there's an approval for that. And there was some issue with the landscaping also, which was raised by the planning department. We also solved that issue by proposing new soft landscape, and we meet the criteria required by the planning department. The new soft landscape is shown, which is at the left side of the property. And that's all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? Mr. Kidd.
I'm sorry, just to be clear on the situation out there. Are you saying that there's an existing apartment in the basement? It's not a storage space? There's an existing apartment now?
Yes, there is.
And somebody's been living there since 2001?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any further
And
questions
we
of the
also,
speaker? Any further questions of the speaker?
we applied, I'm so sorry. We applied for a building permit, and together with this application, and the building department approved our application. Our building permit file is closed. Only we want to get the approval from the committee for the parking. So the basement has no problem with the.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? None. I have Mr. David Hill. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mr. Hill, can you, you have the opportunity to let the committee know of your views on this proposal?
Okay, so just so you understand, the information regarding that parked car, that has been removed. I can confirm that. That was on my submission from last year.
Okay.
Okay, so what I've put in for this year is in reference to the landscaping, and the area that is now being proposed as soft landscaping was originally soft landscaping. It was removed and asphalt was put down. You should have a Word document from me as well as 4 JPEGs. Do you have that information?
We have it, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the pictures that I took were of the laneway, and that laneway serves all of the apartments. There are 6 apartments there in total. Unfortunately, it is a laneway that is only wide enough for 1 vehicle, and it serves 2-way traffic. On one of the pictures that you would have seen, like right there, okay, there we are. So those are last year's pictures, but we can talk about that. You'll see along here where the asphalt and the grass meets. So further down, that used to be grassed. That was asphalted over. The brown area that is there, that is a divot in the grass that has been sitting there since last year's application and even prior to that. So what I have put in my submission for this year is to, that's the car, that's gone. You were looking at last year's pictures. You would have received these pictures from either Eileen King or from Emily Greco. Are you able to find them?
Yes. Sir, do you have any, we're aware of your property standards issues, but do you have any other concerns with respect to the variances he's requesting?
I want to see the soft landscaping put back in, and a concrete parking barriers put in to protect the landscaping and potentially on the other side of the laneway to prevent people from cutting across my property with their vehicles.
Okay, but sir, those aren't related to the variances we have before us. Do you have any objections?
Okay, fine.
Do you have
No,
any
I understand.
Do you have any objections to the parking variance?
No, as it's gone through the committee, so as far as I'm concerned,
Okay,
that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just concerned about the soft landscaping.
Well, we'll ask the applicant to address that when he comes back on.
Okay, thank you.
Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll go back to the applicant. Are you there? The agent?
Yes.
You heard some of the comments from Mr. Hill. He has expressed some concerns about some property standards issue, especially some, I'm sure you saw the pictures. There's some landscaping issues that where the sod has been removed at would be the corner of the building by the laneway. Are you proposing to fix that?
Yes, we agree with the comments, and we are going to provide the landscaping and the barriers.
Now, remember, anything, you're stating this in public, so it can be certainly used against you if you don't comply with that proposal.
Yes, we studied the comments, and then we agreed with the owner, and he will do all the required repairs.
Okay, all right, thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? Okay, can I get a motion on this? I note that there are no staff conditions or comments on this. The Transportation Services Report of the 19th of May had no objections to the approval, no objections to the application. So if I could get a motion from the committee on this application, please. Ms. Sankar?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I really don't see any issues from my point of view in terms of what I've seen and the explanations provided. And I can't enforce the private agreement, but it's on the record between the debutante who spoke about the landscaping issue and the applicant. I'll put forward a motion to approve this application.
Okay, thank you very much. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, no, all those in favor? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Sir, your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Our last item of the day, item number 24, 22 Wyndham Drive. We have two people registered to speak. I have a Mr. Randall Dickey as the agent. Sir, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of committee. My name is Randall Dickey. I'm the authorized agent of the property owners.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to, we have no staff comments or recommendations regarding this, your variance, which is very clear what you're asking for. We do have one person who is registered to speak on the item, so if you could give us a very brief proposal on why you see this application has merits.
Yes, thank you, sir. By way of a bit of a background, this original proposal goes back to 2017 when the owner constructed a larger deck than was permitted. I was not involved at that time. The original C of A hearing was deferred. I got involved in January of 2020, January of this year. I was approached by the owner who wanted to bring this whole issue to a resolution. I met with him on site and I told him that he would have to reduce the size of his deck if he wanted my involvement. He's agreed to it. Therefore, what is before you today is a revised proposal from the 2017 proposal to permit a smaller deck to stay The deck itself, just for your notes, has been reduced by approximately 297 square feet. The depth of it has been pulled back by about 10 feet, and the deck has been pulled away from the westerly side lot line. Originally in 2017, there were 6 variances. As a result of this smaller deck, there is now 3 variances before you today. Those variances are to permit a deck of with a coverage of 6.03%. I would note that this is just a slight increase over the 5% that's permitted as of right in the bylaw. I would also point out that this is an existing smaller scaled house, that if you include the coverage of the house and this proposed deck, the total coverage of the house and this proposed deck is still less than 30%, which is the current building coverage requirement of the zoning bylaw. So what's being proposed here is less than a new construction could construct as of right. Variance number 2 deals with the setback from the west side lot line. Originally, the deck was built right to the property line. I advised the client that he has to pull it back. He's agreed to do that. I believe that 0.9 meters or 3 feet for a deck is more than sufficient for access and servicing around the deck, and therefore meets the intended purpose of the zoning bylaw. I would note that the owner talked to the neighbors and did get letters of support from a total of 8 residents, including the abutting owner to the west, who is the most impacted by this deck. This deck is on the west side of the property, and the owner to the west has indicated no objection.
Okay.
Finally, the third.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, finally, the third variance is to deal with the deck height. It is just slightly over on height. It is not a perceptible height as far as I am concerned. This is a raised bungalow, and so it's just a matter of trying to match up the deck with the ground floor, finished floor areas. And the deck depth or distance from the rear main wall, I would point out that if you looked at the site plan, you would see that the rear main wall of this existing dwelling is a staggered rear main wall. There's quite a number of jogs in it. But if you were to measure from the northerlymost or farthest most rear main wall, the actual projection of the deck is not 7.712 meters, it's 3.65 meters. It's because of all that extra deck that's tucked in the corner at on the west side. That's included in overall length. So the percentage of deck that is 7.72 is less than 50% of the deck area.
Sir, can you
There's
summarize,
still ample
please?
rear yard setback. And what I'm asking is that the committee, I hope I can answer any questions you may have, but I hope that the committee may grant these variances so that I can work with the buildings department to finally bring this issue to a conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? Mr. Kidd?
Mr. Chair, when this issue came before the committee back in 2017, it was deferred in order to allow time for the applicant to meet with city planning and modify the application. Did anybody meet with city planning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as I say, I was retained in January of 2020. And it was my discussions with city planning in, let's say, pre-COVID times of 2020, where I had discussions with C of A staff about shrinking the deck and bringing this back forward again. And that's why what's before the committee now is a smaller deck proposal.
So this proposal is a result of your conversations with city planning. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? We have one speaker registered to speak, and Electra Vracus. Are you there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, can I get your name and address, please?
Certainly. Electra Vracus, 24 Wyndham Drive.
Okay, you have the opportunity to give us your views on the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity. But before I make my presentation, I would like to address two items that Mr. Dickey made. With regard to the 6 variances that he mentions, those 6 variances were dating back to 2017, of which 3 are the same as the current ones presented today, and the other 3 that make up the 6 for back then in 2017 were the very same variances but cited in the City of Toronto zoning bylaw, which, as we all know, has been dropped. So I just wanted to bring clarification to that. And with the other comment with regard to which property abutting 22 Wyndham Drive is directly or most affected, I beg to differ. For the west side yard setback, yes, the neighbor of that address that he cited is directly affected with regard to the west side yard setback, which is one of the variances. However, me being on the east side of the subject property, I'm also directly impacted, for which I will explain in my presentation. So I'd like to start by saying my property is adjacent to 22 Wyndham Drive and is located on the east side of the subject property. As such, I'm adversely affected by the existing rear deck and wish to register my opposition. I'd like to present to you my brief analysis and assessment of how the proposed design changes and requested variances are assessed against the 4 tests to determine if they are minor. The first variance. The question is the variance minor? The following figures and percentage points clearly indicate that the requested variances are not minor. With regard to the first variance, lot coverage. The requested increase of the lot coverage is 20.6% over that permitted. The second variance, with regard to platforms in relation to building setbacks. The proposed 0.909 meters west side yard setback for the rear deck is deficient of the minimum required by almost 50%. The third variance, platforms at or below the first story of a residential building. The proposed rear deck height of 1.384 meters is 15% more than the maximum permitted. Its proposed 7.712 meter projection from the rear main wall is 208.5% longer than the allowed 2.5 meters. Therefore, I submit to the committee that the aforementioned requested variances are not minor. These requested increases in the height and length of the rear deck are substantial and interfere with the enjoyment of my property. Committee, our experience today with the existing rear deck as constructed is the discomfort and unease of having the occupants of 22 Wyndham Drive, including their guests, looking into our dining room and kitchen windows, and with the feeling of intrusion into our family's privacy. The second test. Is the proposal desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land or building? The applicant's property, as well as my property and other properties of similar age in the neighborhood, were built in accordance to standards that respected everyone's rights to enjoyment and privacy. This proposal obviously does not respect such standards and offers no explanation as to why it does not. I wonder, where is the need for a deck with a depth 208.5% greater than the permitted 2.5 meters? Third test. Is the general intent and purpose of the city's zoning bylaw maintained? For the reasons expressed above, I submit to the committee that the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw obviously are not maintained. In fact, the minor variances sought are contrary to the intent of the zoning bylaw pertaining to decks, which is to mitigate the potential for noise, overlook, and privacy issues for adjacent properties. Fourth test. Is the general intent and purpose of the official plan maintained? According to the official plan, neighborhood development is intended to be sensitive, not only towards the neighborhood, the broader context, but also considers the immediate context between neighboring lots. The official plan also contains provisions regulating impacts by new development on privacy, which are to remain minimal. Furthermore, the official plan does not permit changes through minor variances that are out of keeping with the
Madam,
overall
can you
physical
summarize,
character of a
please?
neighborhood. Summarizing, in closing, I submit to the committee that the proposal is not in accord with the official plan. The proposed substantial increases in the height and depth of the rear deck are by no means minor. If approved, they will interfere with the peaceful enjoyment of my property and will facilitate intrusion into my privacy. Last but not least, with regard to the letters of support, there was one neighbor that
Okay, thank you, madam.
came to me and wanted to refuse, but it was too
Thank
late.
you.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
allowing me to present.
Any questions of the speaker? Being none, Mr. Dickey, you have the opportunity to address the concerns raised by the previous speaker.
Thank you, Mr. I'm going to make a few notes, comments. Again, what was in front of the committee in 2017 is not what is in front of you now. It is a smaller deck. It's a revised proposal. But I do want to point out that with respect to, there was a comment made that the variances have not changed. Variance number 1, dealing with coverage, the 2017 application was 10.5%, now reduced to 6.03. Variance number 2, in 2017, it was a 0 side yard setback. It is now a 0.9 meter side yard setback. And finally, variance number 3 before you today was originally 10.85 meters, now 7.7, and that goes to the reduction in the size of the deck, the pulling back of the deck that I spoke about. Variances, as planners know, are not mathematical tests. It's a question of impact and assessment, and I believe that these tests meet the 4 tests. And finally, I would ask if committee was to look at either the survey drawing or the location map that went with the notice and compare 22 Wyndham, the subject site, with the abutting property to the east, 20. And if you were to look at the building placement and the alignment of those houses, you can see the deck on the west side of 22. The views are extreme across 22. They would hit 20 at a skewed angle. There is no argument to be made that there's some direct impact or direct view into the dwelling to the east at number 20. So from my perspective, what is before the committee now is a good compromise. It's a reduction in the size of the deck that I can work with planning and the building department to get this issue resolved after a couple of years. And I believe that this proposal does meet the 4 tests, and I ask that the committee grant the variances. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we have no other speakers registered. I also note that there are no staff comments or conditions associated with this application. So if I could have a motion on this application, please. Ms. Sankar?
Mr. Chair, through you, and I'm seeing that the applicant has worked with city staff, and there is nothing that's documented around city's concerns, and he has gone out of his way to make the deck better. I'm going to go forward. I do believe that from my point of view, it's minor in nature, and I will put forward a motion to approve this application.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion. Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can I get a motion to terminate?
Motion to terminate, sir.
Beauty. I'll second that. Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. Good
Thank
job.
you. Bye-bye. Enjoy your evening.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everyone.
Wow.